Alright, so I've just arrived in Chernihiv. Pleasant bus journey. Got to meet Andre the Tree Man. He's just got his wings on here. He's all set. He's going to be cycling around on this. I myself have to find somewhere to stay. It's a beautiful day. Lots of trees. Perfect for the tree man. Anyway, join me in this video. So as I'm walking through town down the main street, I'm off to find the hotel. Walking side by side with the tree man. Getting a few enjoyable looks. It's another room tour. So what can you get for your money in Chernihiv? Well, surprisingly a reasonable amount. This is £14, 560 grivna. That's about $17.50. And for $17.50 you get a basic hotel room, fridge, all the basics, teas, coffees, phone, nice cupboard space, extra pillows. Look at those extra pillows. Slippers, they're very keen into their slippers over here. The standard little bathroom, nice little compact shower. Everything you kind of need. Really basic stuff, but for 560 grivnas, which is really good, £14. Tiny little bed. Can't imagine I'm going to be balling in here. Can't imagine there's going to be much. Uploading a new YouTube video. This is really useful. This place has good Wi-Fi. Look at the size of this television. And I'm not sure I'm going to have this on, but maybe for some music or something, or maybe for watching YouTube. Who knows? And a balcony with the greatest view in the world of Chernihiv. There we go. Have a look at this. What a view. That is an amazing view, isn't it? It's certainly worth the £14. So having checked into my wonderful hotel for £14 a night, and I have to be honest, it's lovely having fast Wi-Fi, because the last place I was in was non-existent, the Wi-Fi, and this place has air conditioning. The last place didn't have air conditioning, and it is rather hot. We're about 29, 30 degrees, bright sunshine, blue skies, beautiful day, perfect for walking around. Unfortunately, the time is getting close to 5 p.m, which is exactly why I'm going to be using most of tomorrow to be looking at most of the monuments of this place. This place is an 11th century town, although I think it dates back to something like the 10th century in terms of early settlements. So there's a fair amount of history here. And one of the highlights of the town is the monastery, which we'll be going to tomorrow. But for my first impressions of this place, there's a lot of greenery. There's a lot of green trees, possibly the reason I met the tree man. He's come to plant about 20 new trees in Chernihiv. What was amusing, the babushka on the bus didn't really take a liking to him. Maybe for various reasons, who knows?
He doesn't like you.
I'm sorry.
I don't like you either.
She said there were too many trees already in Chernihiv. What a ridiculous statement. So clearly she was a little bit nuts, but sadly she seemed like a nice lady. But let's explore. And would you look at this? This literally dissects the city in half. There's a walkway like this going throughout most parts of the city. And it's really nice in the fact that we've got the busy traffic, 2 lanes of traffic on that side, 2 lanes of traffic on this side. Yes, there's a bit of a walk between that side and this side, but we've got these cooling trees, and it's a really well designed city on first impressions, at least this bit. I could be completely wrong, but let's take it in. Enjoy the Chernihiv Friday night scene. Tell you, the big kid ground here, decent skate parks, clean living, no threats because everyone is Ukrainian here. What a wonderful, wonderful city so far. Hello, I am Alex and I am the Wandering Englishman. Thank you once again for joining me in another one of my videos. If you haven't clicked that subscribe button already, do click that subscribe button. And if you click the bell notification, you will be alerted of all content when it gets uploaded. It is very much appreciated. Chernobyl is roughly 1.5 hours to 3.5 hours north of Kyiv. The range is generally that wide because it's traffic dependent. Coming up in today's video, watch me explore this wonderful, wonderful city. This interesting monument and those gravestones that you just saw back there, this is a monument to the men and women that lost their lives during the Soviet occupation or the Soviet war in Afghanistan. So these are the people from Chernihiv who would have taken part in the Afghanistan war. At the top of my head, December 1979 to 1989, which is when the Soviet Union eventually fell apart. And as a Brit, an Englishman, I'm dismayed at what we did. We played a proxy war with Afghanistan along with the United States, and we armed the people that the Soviets were fighting. No, don't get me wrong, the Soviets weren't being the nice guys. What we did was we armed the Mujahideen and we trained them well. If you're on the same side as the Mujahideen, you're on the wrong side. I have no idea what Margaret Thatcher was thinking with Reagan. Well, I do, because it was just this constant hatred towards the Russians. And because of that, us arming them, we basically gave them weapons, we trained them, and Osama bin Laden was born out of that. And then, of course, we all know what happened on September 11, 2001. Retribution for the fact that we got into bed with the Mujahideen, the people that the Soviets were fighting and the people that would have killed those that lost their lives, that this monument remembers. Now, don't get me wrong, war is a pointless thing, but how life could have been very different if we just had a conversation with the Soviets. I don't know. Look at today, 1979 to 1989. And as you see, once again, another one of these cities that is incredibly family orientated. Something, I hate to say it, but the West is lacking in all this. Family is the center of the community. All communities in Ukraine put the family right at the center. And I can't say that's true of British culture right now. If you're a kid growing up in London right now, you're sidelined. And what is there for you? You go to nursery, you go to primary school, you might be lucky and you go to prep school, or you might be lucky and you go to a boarding school or something. But other than the school environment and your parents' time, if you venture out into the community, I don't really see that in large chunks of the UK, and I certainly don't see that in much of London. Hence the reason we have gang problems in poor communities in London. Hence the reason we have high suicide rates amongst young people. It's hence the reason we have issues in the UK, and it's hence the reason I think young people are looking for their religion. They're looking for their religion of woke, and they're finding it because they don't identify with the country that they're born in. They don't identify with the country they live in, because what does it do for them? Here, it nurtures them and it loves them. I don't see that, despite the old cars, the larders and everything. This place has people that nurture the community, nurture the whole family. Now, what is this? A lot of the way I navigate around cities is I go on Google Maps and I look for historical places. This pops up on Google Maps as an historical place. Boarded up, can't really get in. I'll be honest, it didn't actually say much other than the fact that this used to be a one-story house. Some people giving it 1 star, some people giving it 5 stars. I'm still left a little bit confused about what it is. But I think it used to be part of some medical quarter before the whole city was, well, changed, and now we have sort of modern tower blocks over here and Soviet tower blocks over here. There we go. A little over 280,000 live in the city of Chernobyl. and this is one of the administrative buildings. One of the many statues that you'll see littered around Chernihiv. Strangely, this city has lost over 30 statues over the last 100 years. To get between all of these amazing walkways, separate the busy roads, every once in a while you have to go under. And under here, you get the shops that you see all over Ukraine. You know, when you go into the underground system in Kyiv, you see the little underground shops. It's the same here. Some are more well lit than others. I'll be honest, I'm almost spoiled for choice. This main square, everything forks off in different directions. There's a lot of choice in terms of places to eat, a lot of choices in terms of bars. Magnificent square. I'm just going to go stroll down to that church, then I'm going to run back to my hotel to sort of maybe look a little bit more presentable, so maybe I can mingle with the locals this evening. But yeah, I've said it before, but first impressions, I'm impressed. I like it. Anyway, let's cross this without getting run over. The square I just walked through that had the traffic going around it is called Krasna Square. In Ukrainian, that would be Krasna Ploshka, which literally means beautiful square. And I have to say that is a little fitting for the square, as it was a rather beautiful square. And this central promenade is known as Chernihiv Alley. And I hope maybe my Ukrainian subscribers or viewers might be able to tell me when this alley/promenade was made. Of course, you guys will recognize the date there. That symbolizes and is there to remember the people who lost their lives in Chernobyl. Those that went in once the accident took place and lost their lives several weeks later, and those that lost their lives over the years that followed. People are still losing their lives because of the radiation fallout, and who knows what sick health complications they went through because of what happened in Chernobyl. Beautiful statue and a really beautiful way to remember this. Look at this location and this amazing walkway, fountains, people selling their art, and then a beautiful church down the end, which we're going to go have a look at. I keep meaning to go back to my hotel so I can go get changed, but then I keep stumbling across these amazing sites. When I walk around a corner, I see these amazing sites. This is obviously the town of Chernihiv. The church we just saw, maybe this one. I think it was this one. I don't know which we just saw. I'll probably get my bearings, but the plan is we're going to see all of this tomorrow. We're going to go to this fortress and we're going to see these churches tomorrow. When things open, we're going to go see them. Right now, it just gives our bearings and it just gives us an idea of what it used to be. And notice this is the wall. The wall to the city used to be incredibly fortified wall. No one was getting in. And for good reason. I mean, this part of the world back then was a dangerous part of the world. You had marauding hordes of people from all over the world waiting to take you, your women, your children as slaves. The word for slave comes from Slav. There's a reason for that.
Don't die. They'll feed you to the lions.
It makes sense to protect yourself with these amazing walls. But look at this, look at these strong, powerful protectors of the city. Look at this guy, this is brand new. None of this is on Google right now. So this is brand new. You're seeing this potentially first. I've just been on Google Maps. This isn't even here on Google. And you can tell it's new. But this is a beautiful site. This is really beautiful. Imagine living back and during these times. Powerful individuals. Nothing beta about this man. This is a pure alpha male. Wow. And what a lovely park. Everything's new here. It seems a common theme in Ukraine right now that the stonemasons have gone to town and really, really cleaned up this town. There's another beautiful church over there which I hope to see later tomorrow. But look at this. Wow. This strikes me as older, but just as beautiful.
Morning.
Morning, it's day 2 and what a beautiful day. Blue skies, birds are singing, and I'm off to go see the monastery. So let's go and explore this. I should say I'm not just off to explore the monastery, I'm off to explore the whole town. So my hope is I can see all the major sites before the day is up. That is my hope. If not, well, we'll have to extend it for another day. Let's try our best to see everything today. Let's try and see all 7 of these, shall we? Off in the distance, if you can see past the telephone poles, radio masts. It's a very common sight in Ukrainian cities. The fondest one I remember is the one in Lviv, where you get to climb a beautiful hill and you're right next to the radio mast. Here, much flatter city, so to be honest, I haven't really witnessed any big hills, just sort of sloping slopes. But there always seems to be one of those in every Ukrainian city, sort of standing quite proud. A little bit of advice, don't always go with what Google says is a historical monument. This has come up on my maps as an historical monument. I'll be honest, there's nothing to see here. We're going to head towards the monastery. I think that will be far more interesting. Into this bizarre park where you wouldn't really think much was going on unless you actually had a little bit of a read. This mound over here supposedly is the mound where Prince Black and what they believe possibly was his wife are buried under this mound. He was buried in full armor. He was found with some Byzantine coins of the sort of 10th century, thinking back to Constantine. If you want to look him up, look up where Prince Black was buried, and this is the mound you will see. And I think there's a bit of a stone marking this. This is the first time I've been here, so what I'm seeing right now is all new to me. So let's hope that this is stone explains in a little bit more detail. But honestly, you wouldn't know it. There's a fountain that looks like it's being built, so maybe this stone will be turned into something. And here we have this. Ah, it looks like we need to head up onto the mound. I see what looks like an obelisk. The obelisk, of course, would have been put there later. The Prince Black would not have been buried, and then they would have put an obelisk on top. This obelisk would have come much, much later. There's some sort of path, so people do occasionally come up here. This is put here in the 19th century, I presume, or maybe recently, but it's to mark something about the 19th century. Maybe my viewers could explain this in the comments below. Really appreciate that. I was beginning to think everything in this town was incredibly well manicured. As you can see, as we sort of move to the outskirts of the town, we've got this abandoned, well, I guess it would be a netball court rather than a basketball court, but maybe this is supposed to be a basketball court. And up here is a monastery which I just simply can't gain access to. There's a lot of roadworks going on, the gates were shut. Concerned that maybe I've come on the wrong day and it's a Saturday. Well, in classic fashion, I've given up on the monastery. I think I'm going to try and get to it on the way back. Check out the timestamp if you want to check it out quickly. In the meantime, we're going to go to the defenders of the Soviet Union monuments. So more war monuments, something Ukraine does incredibly well, something the Belarusians, the Russians, very proud people, and rightly so. Brave men and brave women sacrificed a lot, and despite my ancestors being on a different side, I still salute them. This is kind of more the Ukraine one would expect before the modernization came in. You know, houses were made of breeze blocks. No one's got around to covering the breeze blocks in wood over there. Dusty footpaths. Thankfully the center isn't like this at all. Thankfully the center's had a lot of money, but you know, at the same time, there's a certain charm to this. You can have little babushkas walking around. The traffic is a little bit annoying. And then the buses carrying the locals back and forth, either be yellow buses or green buses. I am constantly amazed by the monuments in the old Soviet Union. This is just one of the many magnificent monuments that I've stumbled across in my travels, and I mean, they're sort of like, they're sticking their arms out saying, "Halt, who goes there?" Or just very proud individuals. Raise those arms slightly higher, and then we've got to be slightly controversial amongst the woke brigade. I don't know if you can see in the glaring sunshine. It is super bright today. So bright. Look at this. I mean, it needs a little bit of a clean. Amazing though. Really, really amazing. I think what we have here is, let's have a look. And look over there into the distance is the monastery that I couldn't get into, but on the way back, let's try. I'm just trying to understand the sort of the symbolism of that monument. You can see how one of the soldiers is dressed almost like a knight. And the reality is, rightly so, though a lot of people disagree with it, according to the comments I just read. They don't think it's right because it should be exact. They should look like World War II soldiers. But the reality is, this place was defended for 1,000 years by soldiers just like this, and soldiers wearing modern day military uniform. And what's sad is Some of them have been vanished or taken. This monument is in severe need of a spruce up. The money that they've spent in the centre doesn't seem to be being spent on the outskirts. It's almost giving me memories of Moldova in a way. Moldova is where everything's kind of falling to pieces like this. But here you can see World War II soldiers. But maybe it was soldiers over the time, and I think that's probably how it started. Medieval knights, World War II soldiers, Second World War soldiers here. Beautiful. Or maybe later, because they're standing next to a monument remembering the Second World War. So these guys could have been modern day soldiers from the Soviet Union, maybe when this was erected. I think this was erected 40 years after the Second World War. So these soldiers would have been soldiers from 1985. And up here, I believe, just sort of observing these beautiful wooden houses, a little bit like Switzerland, but up here, a monument to the unnamed soldier, all those soldiers that no one ever finds out who they really were. The missing soldiers, the soldier where the mother waits by the door, hoping her son will come home but never does. The soldier who's married to the newlywed. She's expecting a baby. The baby's born and he never comes home to see his child. This is what this monument represents. And I presume once we get up here, this is going to be a pretty high point in the city, although we did come down the hill to get to this monument. As you can see, what I'll do is I'll get up the hill and then we can have a look at the view. The two panels that had missing metal decorations, it turns out they met the fate of the 1,300 plus Lenin statues that have since the Ukrainian Revolution in 2014. They were dismantled in accordance with the order of the head of the regional state administration. One was the Bolshevik coup of 1917. The other was interventions of Soviet Russian troops on the territory of the UPR between 1917 and 1921. Both Bolshevik connected, hence the reason that they are no longer here. Only because it's done by the locals. This is apparently a grave of Viking warriors. Even they made it down here. What they did is they came effectively down the rivers, left their mark, and we have this sort of spiritual point. An amazing view up here though. Really amazing. And down here there's another one, another burial ground. These mounds are called Kurgans. You might remember the Kurgan from the original Highlander movie. Connor McLeod kills him eventually. The man that slays the Sean Connery character supposedly was of Kurgan origin, and the Kurgans effectively come from this part of the world. You'll see a lot of these mounds in this part of the world. Whoa! That was a bit scary. Amazing. I don't know if these rocks are symbolic to the burial ground as well. Maybe they are. Maybe I'm unwittingly walking over a gravesite. No offense intended to the people that would be buried under my feet here, but it is a little bit lumpy. It does make you wonder. Very peaceful other than the hum of the traffic in the distance. Gravestones scattered around what look like more mounds. Khmelnytskyi, 1864 to 1913. Apparently, this man was able to speak 9 languages, and he's a celebrated Ukrainian author. He was born in Piatnytska in 64, and he died here in 1937. He had some pretty famous children, all of which were shot and murdered in 1937. I don't know potentially if these people are connected to him, if these are the ones, but he's a very much celebrated author, and his house apparently is very nearby to this very interestingly sparse cemetery, very peaceful. Well, actually, I was just about to say I feel like the only person, but then I just saw 2 old people over there. But oh my god, it's baking. I think I'm going to have a red head by the end of the day. I need to find a hat. I've just bought my ticket, and this is the St. Anthony Caves. So already I know it's going to get a lot cooler down there, but that's a welcome respite because it's 34 degrees outside. I'm hoping it's going to be cooler downstairs. The monks, or the hermits as they used to be called, used to spend their entire lives, or their adult lives, living in these caves. Life expectancy wasn't too high, but I'm not surprised because you live in the dark, no sunlight, and in a little cramped surroundings, probably with little good nutrition, terrible air, you're not fare too well. But let's go have a look. Once you get past the lovely lady and you've paid your way in, the main attraction here are the St. Anthony Caves. Yes, there's a church upstairs. The main reason people visit this attraction is the ground floor, which you're seeing now, but also the lower floors, which you'll see later. And this place was founded in 1069. Historians have claimed that Anthony arrived in Chernobyl, fleeing the wrath of the Prince of Kyiv, Tilaslav. He loved the Bohdan Mountains so much that he dug a cave, and since then there's been a monastery in the Bohdan Mountains. So according to legend, these bones are the bones of the monks who were killed by the Mongols in 1239. There's been a monastery on this site for 1,000 years, and these bones are what was left after the Mongols came through and just completely destroyed everyone. Well, not destroyed, murdered. And this is what we have left. It's a little bit cramped, so I'm having to duck. The ceiling just got higher. This chap, Nicholas, he was canonized because he effectively built this church, well, a lot of it, in the 40 years that he spent down here. So his life expectancy was a lot higher than the average life expectancy of the hermit down here. And they would live down in these caves. I can't go down in these caves, but I don't. What a life. It's absolutely amazing what people do for their beliefs. Totally amazing. I mean, full on respect to them, but at the same time, you know, modern day level of slight insanity. Well, alright. This literally feels like a gold mine down here. Slightly strange. Could be going on a Disney ride. And you're about to get into one of those cars, the mine cars, and go down. Apparently, there's been a lot of ghosty activity around here. Ghosty activity? Well, some ghost watch programs have visited this place. If you're a vapeman, you might have one of those devices to sort of read energy levels, just to see if there was any spikes in energy levels around here.
hate this. I like to torture him. That's right, boys. It's Dr. Venkman.
Just very bizarre. You've got to realise these didn't exist when they were living here. They would have had candles, obviously, and it would have been what you can't sort of appreciate. It's a sort of musty air, cold air. I mean, no wonder. I always thought you'd want to be high up to be close to God, not low down. But these guys obviously thought different. Sort of these hermits would check out the caves, and now everyone's vanished. I've lost the Ukrainian tour group. I didn't come in as a tour group. This is the lower circle, one of the parts of St. Anthony's Cave. It was founded in the ancient Russian period. First it was the phase where the monk and cleric lived. In the 17th it was widened and it was used as a burial place for the St. Lima's Monastery up to the 18th century. It consists of the galleries, the monks, the cells and the burial niches and loopholes. And this is a sort of a map of the tunnels, I guess. You can't go through all of them. Listen, just like eerie quietness. I've lost the tour. Thankfully, there's not more bones. Hi guys. Kind of place where you might expect a tap on your shoulder as you're sort of walking past. This is where they lived. They lived in these little caves and these nooks and crannies. And this is where they slept. Obviously it would be kitted out with quilts and blankets, but even still. But some of them this is where they were buried. I don't know why you would want to live it like this. This would have been one of the beds. Lay down on this. What a bedroom, eh? Hey ladies, come back to my bedroom. They were celibate, so that's probably not going to happen. So these little holes, I'm not sure what went on here, but as you can see, so if this floor doesn't give way, whoa, you get locked in. I don't know if this helped bring you closer to God or it was just a place to keep the naughty monks. I'm not sure. Probably best read up on that. And this fine chap, I presume, is sort of a mock-up of what potentially Nicholas would have looked like, or at least some of the hermits look like. This magnificent cathedral is Trinity Cathedral in the west part of the city. So let's go and have a look. You will start to think, if you make it to the end of this video, that Chernihiv is a very religious place. It certainly has a number of monasteries, churches and cathedrals. This cathedral inside the Trinity Monastery, Trinity Cathedral, certainly being one of the most impressive ones I witnessed during my weekend. All this worship could be the reason that Chernihiv seemed so friendly, family orientated and safe while I was there. Or maybe I simply get lucky and I simply have good encounters, but all throughout my time in Ukraine I find myself meeting warm, welcoming people. The biggest downer is my lack of language skills, which has been pointed out by many of you subscribers. However, this is a work in progress. One day I'll get there. Also, if you made it this far, do hit that like button. It helps YouTube know that you like this content and that it may persuade it to one day show this content to someone similar to you. It's that time of year where the lady drops reeds over the floor to symbolize the story in the Bible. Remember that one? I was hoping to get a view at the top of the church, but I think we can get a view from the top of the bell tower. So that's where we're heading now. It's going to be the same height as Mr. Crow. Here we had the bells. I'm hoping they don't go off while I'm here. Continue to the top. So right up here, quite an impressive view. Loving the size of this factory over here. Not loving the air that it's probably producing, but significant nonetheless. And there's a lake over here. Apparently locals go to the lake. I'm in two minds whether to walk to the lake because it's such a hot day. We'll probably walk through those trees, or actually walk in the opposite direction that way, and then I'll find a massive monument, another massive monument to the Second World War. I don't think that's where you get your porn. It looks like a music shop or something. Maybe that's music. I should know this really. To really dissect a city, you've really got to sort of also walk on these less pretty roads. At the moment, I'm sort of walking around what is probably the circular, and it will get me towards this next monument. But also, if you were ever tempted to try and, connect all the dots with all the monuments in the cities, or just sort of try to understand the city, make sure you've always got water. I say it in a lot of my videos, but on a day like today where it's 34 degrees, water keeps you alive. And also remember that 1997 song, Wear Sunscreen.
If I could offer you only one tip for the future, sunscreen would be it.
I think I got that wrong, but I did remember the title of that song. Baz Luhrmann, didn't he direct the Moulin Rouge with Ewan McGregor? But it was Baz Luhrmann 1999 Sunscreen, not 97. How do I remember that? That was when I graduated from sixth form in the UK, 99. It was something along the lines of the class of 99. Do not read beauty magazines. You will only feel ugly, but wear sunscreen. Along those lines. T-34-85 tank, actually built in 1944, but the strange thing is Chernobyl was liberated in 1943. So strictly speaking, this wasn't one of the tanks that would have stormed through the city to liberate the Ukrainians from the Nazi occupiers. However, it is a monumental tank nonetheless, and it's a monumental monument celebrating those liberators that liberated all of the Eastern Front from the Nazis and took it all the way to Hitler's door in Berlin. By the time they would have got to Berlin in 1945, this tank certainly would have been on the front line. And what a beautiful tank it is. Well, as a couple get married and get inside their limousine, I find myself back on the main square, and this is one of the places where locals go to see music or listen to music. Big orchestral music, sometimes pop music. It's basically the centre for the arts and the centre for all musical shows that come to this town. What an impressive building, very impressive. Beautiful Orthodox church. You can tell we're back in the centre because everything is pristinely manicured. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it. Honestly, a lot of effort's gone into the centre of this city, and I only hope the outskirts will improve just as much as the centre has. It's probably only a matter of time. I saw workmen as I was walking towards the caves all along the road fixing what was dusty footpaths, so I'm sure that if you guys come out here in a few months or a year, the rest of the city will look as immaculate as this. It's just over here, a man we might recognize, certainly if you've watched a lot of my other videos. This is Bohdan Khmelnytskyi. Bohdan Khmelnytskyi, and I know I'm brutalizing that once again, but he's celebrated in Ukrainian folklore and he's celebrated in Ukrainian history. And you might remember his massive statue in the main square opposite Sophia Cathedral in the center of Ukraine. And there's statues of this man all over Ukraine. A slightly controversial figure in terms of modern day standards. He's highly rated amongst the Ukrainian people, but criticized in the fact that he kind of started the alliance between Ukraine and Russia, but many saw that as a necessity at the time, just to survive. He's also considered an incredibly influential character in the fact that the Cossacks led to the downfall of the Polish Empire and changing the dynamics of Europe entirely. Without Bohdan, the real English for that is Theodore, by the way. Theodore is Bohdan. The world would be a very different place. He was a remarkable man for the Cossacks, and he aligned himself with the Cossacks. Not much love from the Jews, though. He wanted to rid Ukraine of the Jews, and my fear is, as the world becomes more woke and wokeness spreads to Ukraine, we might see controversy behind this statue. I hope, just like I hope with all statues, I think statues should be preserved. It gives us an insight into the past. It gives us an insight into our future. And by remembering the past, we know how we got here, and we also learn from those mistakes, and we learn from the truth. But at the same time, much celebrated in Ukrainian history, and that's a very proud, beautiful statue. I like it. Almost 20 kilometers into day 2 of exploring Chernihiv, I find myself now in Chernihiv Park, and over here I believe is what's called the Transfiguration Cathedral. So let's go and have a look at this. So inside this building that looks like a church, it was actually an old school building where, effectively like a grammar school, if you had the ability, you were educated in this tall building until it was effectively taken over by the Ministry of Defence back in 1941. And now it's kind of a museum on the ground floor of the tower. And it effectively costs 15 hryvnia to get into. Very small museum from what I can understand. Let's have a look. Well, a very tiny museum, but you know, at the end of the day, what do you expect for 15 hryvnia? It's a beautiful building though, and certainly a bit of history. I like the fact that this has been preserved. It was standing until 1996, and then it had been rescued, and I think it was where this now is. I'm still curious what happened to the Lenin statue. I hope to find those in a museum. What's strange is when I was in Moldova, if you remember from my very old video in Chisinau, I almost felt a slight repulsion when every time I saw Lenin. But now, no, I'm not turning into a communist. Now I'm just pleased to see this stuff in a museum because of what's happened in the last 3-4 years in the West, where statues have been torn down. I still want to be able to see these statues, despite what they stand for. I want to go to a museum and see what these statues represent and who they are. Wow. And this gives you a representation of just what the city would have looked like just some 200 years ago. Wooden fortifications. Or is it? Yeah, this is a claim that this is what it was just in the 18th century. So 300 years ago, really. 300 years ago, we've got wooden fortifications that wouldn't look out of place as Americans were taking over North America. Here we find ourselves in another museum on the same grounds, connected to that little museum. This time it's 50 hryvnia, right next to this magnificent building. A depiction that was very common back in the 19th century when the Ottomans were decimating this region by capturing, killing Christians and killing priests, by beheading them. This is an accurate depiction. Mary doing that very sad face, was she? He's like, hey, what's going on? He's not impressed. And this is the last room, and I can speak slightly loudly because everyone else has vanished. But the religious art is slightly interesting, some of it. Generally, I'm a big fan. The National Gallery in London has a lot of religious art, and it's worthy of your time if you're ever in London. This is also 50 hryvnias, it's worthy of your time. Very small little museum. It's a shame we can't get up onto the roof. Maybe another time. And you thought Greece had a lot of whitewashed buildings. Let's check this one out. Note the impressive walls. I now find myself back in the museum, which is in that white building. It seems every single little building on this complex has a little museum connected to it, so make sure you've got cash on you. This one costs 45 hryvnia. For the pleasure of filming. I'm allowed to be filming for once. looks like there's an upstairs. Let's check out upstairs. I want to stop filming so I can just at least read the labels. What I find fascinating about religious art is the aura around most of these images, and most of the images that you'll see all over the world. You always see the aura, and I think there's something to that. If you've ever dabbled in psychedelics, LSD to be exact, you will experience what is the human aura. We all have energy flowing through us, and the LSD opens up the third eye, and it allows you to see a person's aura. It gives you the insights into if they are good or bad. And notice in this picture over here, we have this person, and this person with their aura, but nobody else. Now, the picture is kind of saying that these three are almost kind of like the people enabling themselves to see into heaven, or maybe into the next dimension. Who knows? Alternative reality? Maybe that's what they were referring to. And you know, this religion is a way of trying to understand that. But there is something to it. As soon as I was able to see auras, it changed me. We all have an aura. And this is what these pictures are effectively showing. Obviously they're trying to show that it's in the sort of the saints. This is the apostle, Philip the apostle, and this is a depiction of him. But there's no reason, and look, notice the aura around. Who is this? The Assumption of the Mother. None of the others have auras, but she does. Oops. We've had that one. Are we ready for the next one? Literally line after line after line of them. Amazing, amazing park. The park that we've been in is called the Ancient Chernobyl National Architectural and Historical Reserve. A very long-winded name, but you get the point. And this magnificent structure that we're entering right here is the Transfiguration Cathedral. And the original neoclassical Transfiguration Cathedral was erected in 1827, but demolished by the Soviets in 1936. And it wasn't until 1999 that the building was reconstructed according to the same plans. And this we get to enjoy today. Although, as you can see, construction and repairs are still ongoing. Well, that was the first one I didn't have to pay to get in. Quite monumental being inside. Transfiguration Cathedral, the Saviour Cathedral, as it's really called. Very impressive, beautiful, beautiful grounds, really beautiful. Should we go see another one? It's a white building, but it's, I don't think it may just be a small room. It's certainly not open. It's all wonderful grounds. Oh, this is every little boy's favourite place. Place of big guns and place of cannons. And here we have an illustration of what the city walls used to be like here. And the city walls would have been up over here back in the day when they had to defend themselves from the Ottomans and those that swept through this region. But remember, the Mongols came through here in the 13th century. But these cannons would have been around defending themselves during the Ottoman days. I think we've just found the fine workmen that are making this city so pretty. This is all going to be repaired or made new. Wonderful walkway that would come from all the way over there to here. Covered a lot of ground today. That's the reason I'm wearing a thing on my head, because I felt my head starting to get a little bit tingly. I'm probably going to regret this today. But these men do a fine job, because they're certainly making this place really nice. Well, as my head feels frazzled under my neckerchief, I think we're sort of coming to the end of the walking day at least. I know I'm going to go out for a few drinks again tonight. Last night was enjoyable in the fact that the England game was on. I'll give you a time frame on this. We drew 0-0 with Scotland and I got to watch that with some locals. The plan is to have a little bit of a dinner and drinks back in the centre today. My phone has died, so I can't refer to my phone anymore in terms of information. And there's more churches to see. But you know what? I'm a little bit churched out now. There's been a lot of churches done today. But I think I've pretty much covered most of this ground. And look, there's a red squirrel over here. I know this doesn't have zoom, but he's just about to go up the tree. I love the red squirrels in this country. The red squirrel is a classic example of Europe in the fact that they've ceased to exist in large chunks of Western Europe, but the red squirrel still exists in Eastern Europe on a large scale. That can be very similar said to Europeans in Eastern Europe are the majority, whereas in Western Europe it's not the case. And now he's buggered off. I know I'm not being very quiet, but he's, oh, there he is. No, he's just sitting up there. As I pour water all over my head just to cool myself off, I think we can confirm we've blitzed this city. We have definitely blitzed this city. And you're wondering why I might be sweating and heading home after a day of walking around. It's 38 degrees and this mad Englishman has been walking around in the sweltering sun, burning his bald head. But there's a cure for this. There's a beer market. And we're going to go into the beer market. We're going to get ourselves a nice cold beverage. Then I'm going to head back to my swanky hotel room, relax for a little bit before heading out this evening. I hope it's open. Yes. I generally don't know how other vloggers get such good human interactions. Anytime I ask for human interaction, I'm looked at like I'm going to rape them or something. She was not happy about me bringing a camera into that establishment. But what I did get was this, what I hope is this Lviv, it's the brewery from Lviv, and I think it's an APA. I think, to be honest, it was one of the most expensive beers in there. So I hope it was good. A lot of the beers were like 32, this one was 69. So hopefully it's good. 69 give you some perspective. It's probably about $2.